Hi everyone, here's the Book Chemist once again. Today I'm reviewing The Golden House by Salman Rushdie, a book that was highly praised by an Italian YouTuber I like a lot called Ilenia Zodiaco. I'll put a link to the video where she talks about the novel in the description box. Rushdie is an author who I don't quite know how to navigate. He's fairly wide over. I read Midnight's Children ages ago for a university class, and I loved it. And last year I read The Satanic Verses because of the novel's reputation. I was curious to read it, and I enjoyed it. I found it very funny, very energetic, almost a little crazy in a very Pynchonian way. But beyond those couple of books, I really didn't know what to read next. And by the way, I'm definitely open to suggestions, which is why I was fascinated to dive into another Rushdie novel, a much more recent one. The Golden House is a family saga about a very wealthy Indian family who moves to Manhattan and settles into this privileged community called the Gardens, where a few terraced houses all share the gardens at the back of the property. And the eccentric patriarch of the family, Nero Golden, and his three sons very soon cause a sensation among the neighborhood, and the Gardens all start becoming involved in the lives of these quite unique characters. All of the members of the Golden family are very quirky and definitely larger than life, but they are also humane characters and they feel very real. Through the idiosyncrasies of their personalities, Rushdie manages to talk about issues and problems that feel very simple and very important. Feelings of guilt and pride, the difficulties, the struggle of inhabiting a body or even a mind that does not allow us to express the person that we feel trapped inside us, or even how easily and with what simplicity people might slide into extremist political or cultural positions. The story of the Golden family is narrated through two filters. The first and most obvious of these two is the novel's narrator, René, a young man from the neighborhood, from the Gardens, who quickly becomes fascinated with the Goldens. He is an aspiring author, an aspiring director and writer of movies, and he develops this idea of writing a movie about the Goldens, about these strange, larger-than-life characters. And even for someone who, like me, I'm not a big movie buff, The Golden House is still self-consciously cinematic thanks to its movie buff narrator in a way that is very compelling and very intriguing. Very often the chapters are structured as if they were the scenes from a movie. We get the camera angle that René would use to narrate this story. The characters get compared to famous actors and actresses. Certain scenes get compared to famous scenes from classic cinema. This device also allows Rushdie to play in a very stimulating, very fun way with the fictional boundaries of the book. Very often in the novel, it's unclear whether the story we are reading is René's own fictional treatment of the Golden family and of the events that happened to them, whether what we're reading is what actually happened to them, or some strange mixture of the two. The other filter that the novel is narrated through is its historical and political context. The Golden House is set during the 8 years of the Obama administration, and the uncertainty around what is going to follow Obama's second presidency is very much a presence in the novel. There's this constant feeling of unknown, of this constant feeling of threat when the characters contemplate what's going to follow. The fall of the House of Golden, if you will, is then compared and contrasted to the situation in the broader US, to the country's descent into a state of political divisiveness and culture wars, the decay in the quality of its political debate, the debate on its issues, its problems, this descent into a state of a rabid antagonism, which ultimately ends with the election of Donald Trump as President of the United States. The gardens then, this place where the novel is set, come to stand in for some type of Garden of Eden almost, a place of innocence that looms very large in the imagination and in the feelings of the protagonist, but which ultimately are not immune to the broader political and social movements of the mid-teens, and in a way they stand in almost as a synecdoche for New York at large, and the novel is definitely about New York's relationship to the US as a whole, to the country at large. I think The Golden House is a great book. I had tons of fun with it. It's extremely engaging, funny, entertaining. It's clearly the work of an immensely talented writer who can pull all sorts of stylistic tricks without making the narrative feel stuffy or heavy or slow. It's amazing. I loved it, to be honest. I will say, however, that it felt a little bit like a guilty pleasure, and I don't use that term lightly because I don't generally believe in guilty pleasures as a category. To put it maybe differently, I felt that the novel was at times slightly self-commiserating. The novel embraces a certain shattered, a certain devastated attitude to Trump's election as President of the United States. It sees it as a tragedy, and I very much agree. I think it's a tragedy too. But the novel also assumes a certain negative attitude and dismissive attitude toward the people who voted for Trump, toward the millions of people who either voted for him or decided not to vote at all, and doesn't really engage with the broader inequalities that caused the certain type of situation where someone like Trump or other right-wing demagogues across the world gain such traction, which with such large sectors of the population. Instead, it embraces what is maybe a fairly simplistic liberal view that Trump's election was a matter of lies, cheating, dishonesty, and a certain bottom line evil. As an example of this, the main antagonist in the novel is disappointingly a scheming Russian woman. I find this especially jarring because this is a book set in a world of immense privilege. Virtually all the characters are college professors or filmmakers or diplomats or magnates, and they don't seem to understand exactly why some peoples might have issues with this type of vast privilege. Even the book's ultimate attitude and message that love will solve our problems and culture will be the way out of our conundrums and difficulties, while by all means a commendable attitude, still feels a little wishy-washy and liberal. That said, it's important to remark that this book came out in 2017, so very soon after Trump's election, and it's perhaps unfair of me to expect astute political observations from such a warm document of that terrible time. In many ways, this is actually a great testimony of the uncertainty of those first few months after Trump's election, when the election felt almost like a sucker punch, when we were all reeling from this unlikely tragedy that had just become a reality. The novel has always been the bourgeois genre par excellence, and The Golden House, while rabidly bourgeois, is a great novel. I really enjoyed it. It reminded me a lot of The Royal Tenenbaums, Wes Anderson's movie, in that it had the same mixture of quirky, larger-than-life characters living in this world of extreme privilege. Very similar vibe. So if you're a fan of the movie, you're probably going to enjoy Golden House. And do let me know what you thought of the novel, if you shared some of my same reservations, if you found it quite an interesting take on the events of 2016 and a few years prior. And let me know what you think I should read next by Rushdie, because as I said, I'm not familiar with his over that much. Thanks so much for watching the review, and bye everybody.